In case you're not aware, a film that really should have been a blockbuster hit showed up on Netflix, and it stars Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, and it was directed by the one and only Bob Zemeckis, and it's called Here. Now, Here is an interesting type of film that I don't know why this film did not receive any accolades. I didn't hear anything about this film. It just sort of came and went, and now we can stream it on Netflix. And I think it's weird that we're at the point where films are being released to the theaters and then are just being totally shelved into streaming, but that's another issue that I don't want to get into, but maybe I will get into that because I'm going to talk about what Here is. Here's a film that decides to use its conceit as essentially like, let's put a camera somewhere, like I put my camera here, and then we're going to show practically everything that has happened here at this particular moment, in this particular spot. So this is one of those ideas that you just sort of have to do and hope it works. And I'm going to say this. I don't necessarily think this works. But I will have to say I think this film is good. I feel like this is a film whose idea, it feels like it's been pitched around a lot, and eventually someone has to just sit down and write it, and then they do the best they can. So naturally, if this film starts out here in one particular spot, which is apparently somewhere in America, how does it begin? Well, it has dinosaurs chasing each other. Then it has the meteorite striking the world, and you're kind of going like, well, there went the effects budget. But honestly, this film is a bunch of effects. And does that mean it's coming off as, say, pretentious? Because the opening of this film reminds me of a bit of something that was in the film Adaptation, where Nicolas Cage starts going off on his great ideas, and then it cuts to him listening to those ideas the next day and thinking like, wow, that's utter crap, but they sounded so good at the time. The way Here decides to do its story is, of course, very non-linear. Now, some stories benefit on being very non-linear. Some stories, I'm kind of wondering, like, why did you tell this story in a non-linear fashion? For example, if you've seen the film Batman Begins, it's kind of interesting how they do flashbacks showing him becoming Batman and even all the stuff before it. When they tried to do this in the movie Man of Steel, I didn't really feel like you had to tell that story very non-linearly. You could just have done it in chronological order, just like the original Superman the movie did, and you'd have the same effect, right? And then there are some films like, say, Memento, which use their backward and forward storytelling to really make a point as far as how this character is perceiving and how the world is affecting them. Then there's Here. Here just sort of has, there's several stories going on here, but the problem is a lot of the time periods they're flashing back to are so minimalized that I'm kind of wondering, like, why did you even flash back to that? And the way they do it is very odd. Oftentimes there will be a section of the screen that is framed, and then they'll flash back to something in that frame, and then the whole scene will essentially match that frame. I don't really know how to describe it other than that. I think what the attempt is to try and make it look like, I'm not sure, a photo album maybe? Or perhaps, and I'm told this is actually based on a graphic novel, it's possible that they wanted to do that to capture maybe the imagery of the graphic novel. But you know what? If you're trying to adapt a film from a graphic novel, don't cut it up into panels. Ang Lee tried to do that for the Hulk, and it looks stupid. And with Here, it doesn't really come across as stupid, but in some cases, I actually kind of thought, like, you could have really gone out of your way to do a complex special effect to make this sort of visual storytelling work, and I actually thought they were going to do that. And here's the thing about Robert Zemeckis. Robert Zemeckis is, of course, a very influential filmmaker. He'll always have Back to the Future under his belt, which is one of the finest films of all time. I think we can all agree with that. And he's had a history of working with Hanks before, on Castaway and, of course, Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump especially relied on special effects to tell its story. One of the things that I think is one of the weaknesses of Robert Zemeckis is that when he's given the opportunity to do spectacle, he'll often do it, but it doesn't necessarily turn out the way he wants it to. And a good example is, say, for example, the movie Contact, where there's a scene where there's like a whole crowd of people in front of something. And I kind of went like, you didn't really need that whole crowd there. I mean, that's probably a very costly special effect to do. And I really admire the fact that in the movie Forrest Gump, there was a huge crowd around the Washington Monument that I felt like, wow, how did they even do that scene? Because at the time, I mean, the only way to do a scene is you hire a lot of extras, and that gets really freaking expensive. And we haven't done that since the days of the big epics. So the fact that Zemeckis has this filmmaking technology at his disposal, we all know his attempts to do these strange, like, live action things, like the Polar Express. Did he do Mars Needs Moms? I don't remember if he did. But other attempts that he did this, where he would, do the motion capture thing, and it never really worked. So I kind of went like, I didn't really know why he wanted to do this type of movie. Could it have done in a more creative way? And I don't know if it could be. Maybe the conceit of this storytelling limits what you could do with it. I actually kind of thought that maybe they do this thing where they could do a thing where like it would morph into something. And I'm thinking like maybe they tried that, and I don't know. So yeah, like I said, Tom Hanks is in this because, well, he's worked with Robert Zemeckis on several occasions. And I get the feeling like Tom Hanks is one of those actors that really chooses his scripts carefully, and he probably has a whole team of agents who sift through them and they go like, this will be a definite blockbuster and you want to be a part of this. And he looked at the screenplay from here and said like, hey, that looks great. It's got Robert Zemeckis attached. I'll do it. And the thing is that the only really characters that we really focus on is Tom Hanks' character in this and his extended family. By extended, I mean they show his father. What's interesting is how they show like, his family. They have this kid, and then that kid grows up and you see that it becomes Tom Hanks, and they de-age Tom Hanks. So it looks like it's 80s Tom Hanks, which I'm kind of going like, and they kind of did a good job because I don't know. I've seen a lot of movies where they try and de-age an actor, but I'm going like, you know what? I actually remember what that actor looked like back then, and that doesn't look like that actor. And oftentimes they'll substitute a different actor in there, but in this case, I mean, they probably went out of their way to do mocap footage, again, mocap, to make Tom Hanks and Robin Wright appear younger. Did it work? Kinda. The uncanny valley effect sort of happens because I'm looking at it and I'm going like, okay, I know that's not really Tom Hanks because I know Tom Hanks is a lot older than that now. But I was willing to buy it for the sake of that. But there's all kinds of other plot lines. They have a plot line of of an African-American family who bought the house after Tom Hanks' family, and they show them, but I'm kind of going like, why are they showing this? And then they show a family before this who the owner had an airplane, and then that person dies of influenza. And I think they're trying to make parallels with certain things here. And then there's another couple there that actually, the owner of the house creates the lazy boy. What's the point of this thing? There are similarities and things that are sort of captured here. But if you want another film that has done this, and I think did this better, there's another Tom Hanks movie that did that, Cloud Atlas. It's already there, and it used sort of very similar techniques of telling its story, of jumping to different time periods to do that. In the case of Cloud Atlas, I mean, they jump into the far future. But here sort of stays kind of within our own timeline. And I think the furthest it goes back is the dinosaurs, but it does show the Revolutionary War and stuff like that. You might like it. And if you can see it on Netflix and if you got the time, try it out. You might like it.